first say thank you to Danielle. I know that was really tough, but that it was really important to you. It takes a lot of courage to stand up here and feel that emotion in front of the group. I know that a lot of us are feeling that emotion. And if there's anything that I learned from today, or I really heard today from our presenters, is that teaching is part of our hearts. It is our passion. Even from our students, we could feel that and how important it was for their connection, belonging, and as educators, you are all providing that for your students and to each other. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to Danielle for your courage and for everyone sharing today. The next one, I hear, will also be of the same token. So Dan Lynch is next. He has served as Erie 1 BOCES coordinator since 2020. He started as a technology integrator and is now the senior coordinator for arts and education and exploratory enrichment. He provides professional development and educational support to districts in visual art, music, and theater to support engaging programming for districts and students. I've had the privilege to work closely with Dan over the past few years and really be able to be a part of his enthusiasm and passion for the arts. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dan Lynch to the stage.
Hello, everyone. While that's, do I have to open a slideshow? You got it? All right. Well, while he's figuring that out, a little background on this talk. I was asked about 2 years ago in front of our district admin to present a TED Talk that lasted 5 to 7 minutes, something involving art. I, as I do with everything, prepared tirelessly for a real TED Talk. Of the 5 of us that presented, I was the only one that gave a real TED Talk. It was a little embarrassing. So I'm glad to have an audience that will appreciate a real one. But that said too, at the time it was only a 5 to 7 minute request, so you're gonna get a break soon. So here we go. Hello, my name is Dan Lynch, and I love the arts. Drawing, painting, music, theater. These are all truly the core foundation of my interests, my career, and my passion. To understand how I believe the arts impact, I feel it's important to share some of my story. As a child, I was always very serious and quiet. I might still be. In fact, my mother took me to the doctor when I was 2 or 3, concerned because I never smiled. My form of expression, even then, wasn't through words or facial movements, it was through art. I will never forget the day that my brother and I were playing in the living room and had knocked over an African violet plant that belonged to my mom's grandmother. It crashed to the floor and dirt went everywhere. She was so upset and I felt awful. To make her feel better, I broke out my art materials and I drew a picture of it so she would always remember that plant. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Art was my form of expression and communication. I am happy to report that plant is alive and well. I even have my own cut from the plant, and I recently got a tattoo to symbolize that plant as well. There it is. Art continued to make an impact on me through my schooling. It provided me with an outlet to share my thoughts, document my learning, and become part of an inclusive community. Unlike math, science, and social studies, art does not have scripted answers. It promotes exploration and opportunities for all learners. For a kid who never smiled, I was grateful for this outlet. In high school, I discovered theater. This program brought together a diverse group of students who, regardless of their role or background, was an equal part of the theater family. It provided me with an outlet outside of the art room where I could creatively express myself individually while working with others who shared on a vision. This made the greatest impact on me, and I knew I had to pay it forward and share this incredible environment with others. This led me into the wonderful world of education. In 2009, fresh out of college, I landed my first teaching job as a high school photography teacher the day before the school year started. I remember being so confident and thinking, I'm going to be the best teacher. I will never forget coming home after the first day and telling anyone who would listen, what did I do? This isn't right for me. I was overwhelmed. I had 24 hours to teach myself photography because I had never taken a photography class before. I knew nothing about school procedures or classroom management. Everyone kept using the term e-school like I should know what the heck that is. Not to mention, I had just turned 22 and was now going to be teaching an upper level high school class where many of my students were only 4 to 5 years younger than me. How could I expect them to respect me? I'll be the first to admit that my first year, and probably my second and third, was not my best work. I was so consumed with learning how to navigate teaching and survive each day that I was not meeting the needs of all of my students. I lost my passion and drive to create an inclusive learning community. My second year of teaching was a turning point for me. This is the year I took over the middle and high school theater department. This program reminded me why I went into education. It gave me an opportunity to get to know my students and understand their needs. In the classroom, this new understanding inspired me to create lessons that promoted self-expression and focused on the practices of artists that reflected a diverse community. I learned to focus more on the process of learning and less on the final outcome. I encouraged student discussion even when the topic was difficult. This is why I went into education, to make an impact. According to a variety of studies collected by DoSomething.org, students who study the arts are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement. Students who study art are 3 times more likely to be awarded for school attendance. Arts and music education programs are mandatory in countries that rank the highest for math and science test scores, like Japan, Hungary, and the Netherlands. In a study of high-poverty schools in Chicago, the schools that were participating in the Chicago Arts Partnerships in Education, or CAPE, made huge strides in closing the gap between high-income and low-income students' academic achievement. Multiple studies have concluded that curricular and extracurricular art studies and activities help keep high-risk dropout students to stay in school. The impact of the arts for all students is evident. If every school in the world provided equal and valued access to the arts, we would see an increase in student achievement. There would be an increase in attendance and a decrease in dropout rates. We would provide students with opportunities to explore their own world as well as the world around them. We would foster acceptance and understanding instead of fear and prejudice. We would provide students with another form of communication like I needed when I was a kid. We would make an impact for all students, regardless of age, race, gender, sexuality, disability, and social class. But, of course, it's not that easy. Educational hierarchy puts the arts at the bottom of the list. This results in a lack of funding and support for a crucial component of student learning. I would argue that it is more important now than ever to increase that focus on the arts to make a larger impact. So, what can we do? Well, that's up to us. Ask yourself if the arts are valued in your school or district. How could you increase accessibility to the arts across all grade levels for all students? Are there opportunities and support for arts integration across other content areas? Is there funding available to support curricular and extracurricular arts activities? Do your district's values reflect appreciation for the arts? Would your teachers agree? How about your students? When we start to find the answers to these questions, we can begin to provide equity in the arts that promotes an inclusion and appreciates diversity. To quote text from the book Street Data, imagine a world where schools feeds our innate creativity and where educators and students have the time and space to co-construct a vision for learning, not driven by mandates and test scores, but by their deepest hopes and dreams for the future. We must work together to create a space that meets the educational needs of all students. Before I wrap up, I have one last part of my story to share. Maybe. There we go. The theater program I started during my second year is my proudest achievement, and one that I continue to manage to this day. Even many of the theater students graduated at the top of their class, attended school daily knowing they had rehearsal after, discovered their passions, made lifelong friends, found support, and welcomed new students who joined with open arms. A few years ago, I received this card in the mail from a former theater student, and I'd like to read you part of it. I can't thank you enough for quite literally building me a home these past 8 years. You've done so much for me without even knowing it. I never wanted to audition, but after being a part of the family, I couldn't imagine my life without it. You took a shy 5th grader and turned her into an outgoing, super outgoing, loud adult. With your guidance and encouragement, I was able to continue to persevere. In middle school, I wasn't certain I was going to live to see myself graduate. You came into my life when I most needed you. You made me feel needed and wanted. The opportunities you gave me were life-changing. I guess all in all, what it comes down to is you saved my life, and I don't mean that lightly. I don't share this with you to brag or because I think I alone made this impact on the student. I merely provided the platform that ensured their success. The arts did the rest. But when I wrote this, I recently reached out to that student and asked for their permission to share this story. At the time, I learned that they would be reprising what was their first lead role in my program as Dragon in Shrek the Musical in a professional role. This was also my debut performance as the dragon puppeteer because the student in this role broke their leg the day of opening night. I offered to reprise my role for the new performance, but they told me no. But that card taught me that the impact of the arts goes far beyond what I previously thought. While it may be possible to observe a program's support of equity and inclusion through a variety of lenses, observing emotional inclusion is far more challenging. This card is proof of the impact the arts have on areas that cannot be assessed. It is proof of the safety students feel in these programs. It is proof that the arts promote equity and inclusion for all students. It is proof that the arts make an impact. Thank you.